This podcast is proudly part of the Paranormality Radio Network. Visit paranormalityradio.com to find binge-worthy podcasts dedicated to all things paranormal and creepy. From conspiracy to cryptid, you'll find it here. Hello.
Welcome to
I Have a Strange Story podcast.
I'm Lindsay.
I'm Rebecca.
Look,
Oh, good job.
it was good. And this is the story where two sisters retell people's strange and paranormal stories and experiences. I dyed my hair. You can see it. Isn't that kind of funny?
I know, I like it. Your fingernails look pretty.
I didn't even care. I didn't even care about using gloves. I just went all in.
Yeah.
Anyways, welcome to the show.
Mhm.
Rebecca, did you have any announcements or anything to share?
I don't think I have any announcements, which is weird because usually we do have at least one thing to say, but I don't think I have anything. If you want to see Lindsay's hair, go to our YouTube channel. It looks real pretty.
It's magenta.
I have a cat in my lap. This is Kiki, if anybody wants to see her. This is all forced. I had to pick her up and put her in my lap, but she stays still, so thanks, Kiki. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's it. We got a cat in my lap. You dyed your hair?
Dyed my hair.
Mhm.
I'm drinking some scotch today.
Yum.
It's 16-year-old scotch.
Okay, tell us about it, Lindsay.
It's from Scotland.
Okay.
It's made with peat.
Ooh, peat.
Uh-huh. And this one tastes pretty peaty. It's real smoky. Have you ever had scotch before?
And was that what you brought to my house one time? Okay, no, then I haven't.
That was
Whiskey? Oh,
yeah, I think it was whiskey.
yeah, it was
whiskey
yeah.
that I brought.
Right. Her hair.
No, this is scotch. So scotch has a real smoky flavor. Like it tastes like smoke. Like it's real rich. It's really good. But this is I know it's a good one.
Mhm.
That's all I
It's
know.
a fancy glass, too. It's real cute.
That's
yeah.
what you're supposed to drink.
Okay, well, all right then. I'm not drinking any... Oh. I'm not drinking anything because I just got back from a bike ride. My husband and I went to a local brewery. We shared a pizza, and yeah, it was all social distance, and yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so it's nice. And I rode my bike up there. He rode his bike up there, and yeah, we've had a pretty boring day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is the day of our Lord. I feel like my throat's closing up after I took that drink. Feel a little weird.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Well, I guess you want to get on with the show?
Yeah, you've got a second parter, right?
Oh, fuck. I forgot about the second part. I actually have a new story.
Shit. Sorry I mentioned it.
Damn it. I'll do the second part next time.
All right, cool. Sorry.
Because I'm still waiting on it. I haven't got it yet.
Oh, my bad. I'm so sorry.
That's why.
I'm sorry.
It's not because I forgot. I like that you remembered. I completely forgot. I felt awful.
No, it's
about
okay.
it.
I've just been waiting.
But I
whatever.
have a news story. You've just been waiting, a whole week. And so have the listeners, but whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure nobody else remembered.
Hopefully. I don't
I'm
know.
sure nobody else remembered.
No, probably you're right.
This is episode 94.
It sure is. We're getting real close
sure
to
is.
100.
100.
Yeah.
100.
100. This cat, man, she sheds like terrible. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's like everywhere.
Yeah, it's going to get all your on
It's
your
on
face.
my
You're gonna have
face.
to get it out like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good.
No.
Let me take another drink to get ready for this jelly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Here we go.
So, this is a story that happened to somebody whenever they were like in middle school. This young man went to his friend's house to stay the night, and naturally, they stayed up all night. It's what all kids do when they go to each other's houses. And they didn't really get in trouble unless they would go to the bathroom. So they would like hang out in the basement, which is cool. If it's not creepy, right? It sounds like it was a finished basement, like they played video games. But if they had to go to the bathroom, they would have to leave the basement, and the toilet they went to was right next to his parents' room.
Oh, and so they got in trouble for going to the bathroom?
Yeah, sometimes they'd get in trouble because they were, still up, and it would wake the parents up.
Okay, that makes
whatever,
sense.
so
that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. So, because they're probably supposed to be asleep, but they weren't.
Yeah.
So anyways, that was one of these nights. A bunch of boys were hanging out. They were having fun. Usually, so what they would do so that they wouldn't wake the parents up is they would just go outside and pee in the woods, which I guess is a thing for boys. We're girls. I don't understand some of that stuff. But so what they would do is just leave the basement door unlocked downstairs, and they would just go outside, pee in the woods, and come back in so they wouldn't get in trouble. So it was a nice little workaround that they had created. They sound very resourceful. I bet they're successful businessmen at this point. So this night, the night the kid's older brother was home. And he was kind of messing with them. Like, he kept coming down and knocking on the door, and he was doing it repeatedly. And they were like, stop, stop. So they just locked the door, and it was the outside door. And they locked it so that he would just leave them alone. So they told him to stop, and then they just decided that they were just going to ignore it. They yelled at him to stop. It didn't work. So they just ignored him for about 5 minutes, and then it quit. And they didn't hear anything else. And so they were like, great. So after about 10 minutes of it being quiet, well, it fucking started up again. And they literally said for 2 hours, there was scratching and knocking on the fucking door, and the door handle, like, it kept moving.
Oh.
And it was the older brother trying to get in. And they were so frustrated and annoyed because they're just having a good time, but they never opened the door. So they just started ignoring it again, and again it went quiet. So 30 minutes afterwards of them being quiet again, his brother finally gave up and left and walked away, and it was finally quiet. They were like, thank God. So they all went to sleep eventually. A few hours later, they woke up, and they all woke up at about 9 a.m. So the kids are waking up, and they start to get up, and some of the boys are going to go pee inside, so they start walking down the hall, and the other boys are like, we're just going to go outside in the woods because that's where it's easy to pee. So this kid gets up to go pee outside, and he reaches to pull the door shut behind him. And this is the basement door that goes outside. And as he felt the doorknob, it felt rough, like it felt sharp, like it was scratched. So he pulled it shut, and he bent over, and he looked down at the doorknob, and the locking mechanism in the doorknob was completely fucked.
Oh my God.
Like, it was ruined. It was like shredded apart. Like, it didn't exist anymore. And there were scratches all over the fucking door. And all of the metal pieces on the door were bent and, like, skewed. Like, something had been shoved in it and, like, tried to bend off or whatever. The door handle, the part that's on the frame of the door was bent. Everything that was metal was bent, as if they tried to pry it off. God. So he looked at it. He called his friend over. He was like, holy shit, look at this door. And his friend was like, that's new. That's never been there before. I've never seen that in my entire life. So they were like, we're going to get in trouble. And your older brother is going to fucking blame us for this. So they ran upstairs, and they got the dad so they could tell the dad what happened. So he went downstairs. He looked at the door. And this kid says that the father, his face went completely pale. And he ran upstairs and called the police.
Whoa.
Because something was trying to break into their house all night, even after the kids yelled at him to stop. There was at one point that the kids banged on the door from the other side and said, stop it. And it kept trying to break in.
Dude, no.
Yeah. And so this kid says that this, they don't know what it was. Like, nobody ever figured out what it was, who it was, or whatever. But he says that this isn't the only time that this has happened to him, that there's been several occurrences in his life that something has tried to break into the door where he was.
Wow.
And he unknowingly, like, he didn't know what it was each time.
That's messed up. That
Right?
that is frightening. If it was like,
Yeah, it's scary.
if it was like a human and they're trying to break in, like, they're not going to try to break in whenever there's people on the other side telling them to go away.
Usually,
Because you don't want to
no.
get caught. And if they're like
Right.
a serial killer or, you know, they're going to be a little bit more clever about it, I feel like. They're going to be,
Yeah.
they're going to try to, like, be your friend and, yeah.
And it was a group of boys down there. So if it was a human breaking in, they knew that they were facing several people down there
Yeah.
who could scatter
Right.
and get away. Like that one person couldn't get all of
Yeah.
them. But then how does a person make scratch marks on a door?
Yeah. Bend metal
Fucking-
and shit, unless they took some
Yeah.
sort of, like, crowbar or they had something, but it didn't sound, but they said that they heard scratches. Dude, that's messed up. That is
I
scary.
I mean, and so then you think about some cryptid stuff, like what could it be? Like what
Could be
scratches
anything.
at doors and tries to get in that bad? It makes me think of like a, why can't I think of what it's called?
Like a werewolf.
You know, it's like a werewolf, yes.
Or-
It makes me think of a werewolf.
Uh-huh. Do you know where this story was?
It was up north,
Okay. I feel like,
so it makes sense that it would be a werewolf.
yeah, north is a scary area.
Yeah, it is. Anywhere that gets cold and has snow, I think is a scary area.
Yeah, I think so too.
That's a lot of death. That's a lot of death. That's a lot of scariness. It's a lot of famine.
Isolation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like COVID-19.
All the time.
Yeah. We're all isolated. It's starting to get cold.
It might as well be winter.
My AC turned off last night in the middle of the night. I didn't even know. I woke up and it was hot.
Oh, that's awful. It snowed here last week. Yeah, it did.
Mm. It's Texas. It's cooling down a little bit.
Like 95?
Yeah.
Like 95.
We're getting down. No, the other day it was in the 70s. It was nice. Anyways, that's my story. That's my fucking story. I'm sorry to talk about boring stuff like the weather, but yeah.
Do you have
That's the weird story.
So what do you think it was, or did they think of anything that it could have been?
They didn't say anything that they thought it could have been, and there weren't a lot of comments about it. My thoughts were that it was a werewolf.
I guess at this like it could be anything. There's a lot of creatures out there. I mean, it could have even just been like a bear or a dog or maybe not a dog. It needed to be something pretty powerful. So
It could have been a bear, but I think the bear would have like
maybe gone away
roared.
too.
It would have been like
Roar.
and they would have heard it breathing, I think,
That's true.
because they're like
They do that thing with their nose and their lips. They're like
Yeah.
their lips and their nose move at the same time.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that. Like you're Kiki, like
Yeah.
yeah.
She's so fucking cute.
She's like, those are my people.
Yeah, I'm a bear.
Anyways, yeah. So I just assumed it was a werewolf, if anything.
Yeah, something powerful and something large and something that had like just blind instinct to get in there and get them no matter what.
Well, and it's unforgiving because it sounds like, I mean, I don't know the other stories, but it sounds like this continues to happen to him.
Oh man, that is awful. Like, I mean,
Is there,
it's just scary to think that something is out there to get you like all the time. God, my bangs are pieces of shit today.
Yeah.
But anyways, go ahead.
no, they're not. Is there persistence from werewolves? Is there persistence to get something that they want? Like, I'm not quite sure that I recall enough about werewolves to be able to speak to that.
Yeah, and so with werewolves, they don't. Whenever they turn, this is just all, things that I can think of off the top of my head. And thank you, Harry Potter as well. They don't recognize their friends or humans or anything. They just become a completely different beast whenever they are in mode.
Yeah.
But then also,
Maybe he's hanging out with a werewolf, dude. That's why it keeps happening. He's hanging out with a werewolf.
yeah, they've got a
Like,
friend.
whether it's the brother who is a werewolf. This is the craziest hypothesis that I've ever come up with.
What, werewolf?
He's hanging out with a werewolf.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, he's hanging out with one. Like, maybe the older brother truly is a werewolf.
Yeah. Changes into something different.
I don't know.
And at first it started out with him being just a dick and an older brother. And then he's like, and then he changes and he's trying to get hold of his little brother and his friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
So werewolves are attracted to their own kind. So they will do whatever they can to get to their own kind. But if nobody in the house is a
Dude.
werewolf, then I don't know.
If
dude.
if it's in the family, maybe there's werewolves in the fucking family. I don't know, dude. Whatever.
It could be anything.
What's your story? I don't know, dude. I don't even know anymore.
She's just here for the drinks, you guys. Drinks and her hair.
I don't even know.
Just don't even know anymore. Oh my god, this cat's hair is driving me crazy, but I love her so much. She's so cute. Bears. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I know.
I know. So I have a story to tell you. So this story is about this kiddo. Whenever they were a kiddo, they were about 12 years old. And they and their family moved to upstate New York to an area called Hudson Valley. And they said that their mom has always had paranormal experiences, but she never really talked about them. But she believed in the paranormal and she was kind of into it, but didn't like push that on her kids or make it seem like that was just the norm or whatever. So this kid never experienced anything before that they can recall until they moved to this area. And they moved into this apartment in upstate New York. And the first kind of strange thing was this like instinctual fear of the woods that were around their apartment building. So they
that's normal.
Sure. So they said this wasn't like a dense forest area. It was just like half a mile of woods. But there were a lot of trees in there. And they said that anytime you need to take the garbage out, the recycling, or if you needed to do your laundry, you would have to kind of leave the building to go to this shed that was close to these trees. And of course, all of these chores were theirs to do. And whenever they would have time to do it was generally after school. And because they had school activities, by the time they got to taking the trash out or the recycling or the laundry, it was dark outside or it was sunset. And so they would run to the shed or run to the laundromat that was close to them or that was next to the trees. They would do their shit real fast and then get the fuck out of there as soon as they could. They just did not like being close to these woods. And they felt like there was some predatory creature watching them. Like they just felt like they were going to be prey to something. So there's just these creepy feelings from the get-go from these woods. And then they had an experience. So the first experience was they were outside playing soccer with their little cousin. I don't know if they're little, I just threw that in. They were outside playing soccer with their cousin, and everybody else was inside, and it was getting close to dark. There was no neighbors, there was no family members or anything, and the cousin kicked the soccer ball just a little bit too hard, and it went to the tree line. And so just in the moment, you're not thinking of anything spooky. So the kid's like, I'll go get the ball. And so they ran to go get the ball close to the trees. And as soon as they got there, they bent down to pick up the ball. And they saw the legs of a shadowy figure standing in front of them. So they were too afraid to look at what was attached to the legs, so they just swiped the ball really fast. They booked it back to their cousin, and whenever they turned around to point to say, like, look at what was in the woods, there was nothing there. It was gone by the time that they met their cousin. So there's another experience that happened with these woods with this kiddo, and they said that this one is the most haunting of the experience that they've had. So this started with, there's this walking path that leads behind the woods, and it goes to the other side of the woods to a road. And they said about halfway down the path, there's this abandoned house, and there might be some sort of crops. They thought maybe it was wheat or just some high growing weeds. They said that the weeds were about 5 feet high. They were pretty tall. And so they and the neighbor went just walking down this path before it was dark. And as they were walking by the house, the kid wasn't really paying attention to the house. They just kind of were walking forward. But the neighbor grabbed the kid and shook him, and he's like, "What is that?" And he pointed to something in the field of crops. and they said there was this tall figure standing there that was towering above these crops. And they said that it looked like it was the body of a man and had antlers on his head. So, so they just stood there staring at this thing in disbelief, trying to process what they were seeing in front of them.
Right.
Probably frozen in fear as well. The neighbor grabbed his arm and said, "Run!" And they booked it out of there. They both ran home. They parted ways, and they never spoke about it again. And then we've got one more experience about these woods.
Okay.
But this time it's from their mom. So we know Mom has experienced a lot of paranormal stuff in their lifetime. They didn't really talk about it, but they knew, but they felt like there was something else beyond our realm that we can experience, essentially. So this happened, it was roughly midnight, and Mom had a hard time sleeping. So she would stay up and she would watch television until she fell asleep or until she got sleepy. So she was watching her show, and in the middle of the show, she heard what sounded like a kitten mewing, and it was coming from, it was coming from the living room window, and she just decided to ignore it. Maybe it was a neighbor's cat, and, maybe it was just a one-time deal. So she continued with her show. A few seconds later, the meowing started again. So this time she paused to listen, and she decided, okay, well, maybe this cat's in distress. I'm going to go outside. And she said she looked everywhere, but she couldn't find it. So she was like, okay, I'm done. Maybe it was nothing. And she turns around to go back inside, but then again, a cat started crying somewhere. And she said it sounded like it was coming from their family's car, which was about 10 feet away. So she was like, all right, I'm going to go still look for this cat. So she goes to the car. She looks under the car. She doesn't find anything. She looks into the surrounding cars. She doesn't find anything. And so she's getting a little bit frustrated. She feels like she's going crazy. So she turns around to go inside again. And then she heard the meowing again, and it was coming from the woods. She said it was about 20 feet away from her car. Whenever she heard it coming from the woods, she kind of refocused. She got a shiver down her spine. She listened to the meow. She said it sounded like it was on a loop. Like there was no changes. It was the same voice, the same tone, the same, just sequence of meows coming from the woods. Like something was trying to get her to follow them into the woods. And so she said, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore. She ran back inside. She locked all the locks that she could in her house, and she just stopped looking for it. So she actually had a conversation with her kid about this, and they both discussed the possibilities of this being a Wendigo. So this... I know you're very excited about this. This kind of fits the description, right? Giant character.
A little.
Horns.
Antlers.
Luring. Stuff like that. So, So I've got a couple of things here to talk about. And I think that, we talk about the Wendigo being a luring creature. Usually found in famine. They are a part of Native American folklore or culture, and they started out as usually a human who eats other human flesh becomes this terrible creature that just craves human flesh to eat them, and it's usually this emaciated figure. They're usually about 15 feet tall, and they're just these decrepit, decaying beings. And they actually don't have horns. That was a sort of Western representation. Somewhere along the road, we added horns to the Wendigo. I don't know why. And we added a deer skull. And I even drew a picture of a Wendigo not too long ago. And I did the classic horns and the deer head. And the thing is that's how we interpret a Wendigo nowadays. I'm not saying that it's right, but that's how people see it now. So, so could this be a Wendigo? Sure, it could be. Who knows? Maybe maybe Wendigos have evolved to creatures that have horns now. Maybe, or maybe it is something that, once again, I think I've brought this up before, that we kind of manifest. For some reason, we have decided to give it horns, so now it has horns.
Yeah.
Who knows? But there's a couple of other things that it could be. So there's something called a deer man, and which is just like what you would imagine a deer man to be. It usually has like the body of a deer, or maybe the torso of a man, and the head of a deer, and it has antlers and stuff like that. I wasn't able to find out a whole lot about this, and it seems like it might be something that people just say that they saw, and we don't know a whole lot about it.
It's kind of hard. So, like, what is that saying that people say? Like, does art mirror real life, or does real life mirror art?
Yeah, like,
maybe.
Yeah.
So it's complicated, right? Because you're right, the antlers didn't exist. So where the fuck did these antlers come from that people describe now whenever they see the Wendigo?
Right.
Because the Wendigo is really just a really tall skeletal figure that's like gray, and it smells really bad, but it looks like a human.
Yeah.
So, but what they saw was a very tall figure that had a deer head and antlers.
They didn't necessarily say deer head, but it did have antlers.
Have antlers.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I don't know how long they were able to look at this creature, but it sounds like they couldn't move because it was so alarming. There is the possibility that even the experiencer said, excuse me, it could have been a deer that was rearing back up on its legs. I think that's kind of hard to like imagining. Like, you and I have seen a lot of deer in our lifetime. We're from Texas.
Yeah.
There's a lot of white-tailed deer there. And they're not, like, they're tall whenever they rear up, but whenever they rear up on their back legs, it's not still. They're having to back up or move forward. They have to get momentum. They're not naturally bipedal creatures.
Yeah, you would see them topple over.
Yeah, you would see them kind of wave
unless
around.
they were propped on something.
Exactly.
Yeah,
unless they were standing on a little tiny hill in these crops. But it just, I don't know.
It just makes me wonder, like, can folklore change over time?
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Realistically speaking, Wendigo is folklore. However, tons of people report seeing it, right?
They either, or the feeling of being lured. And I think that's where our mind goes, because a Wendigo is such a common, in air quotes,
luring
creature that we think of, that lures you to your death, that brings you in so it can eat you. Right. And, so I tried to do a little bit more research to see, like, what other creatures lure, and I know that the Pukwudgie will try to lure you, but those are generally pretty tiny creatures. That's another Native American cultural folklore. I don't know if that's the right way to say it or not, but it is part of Native American cultures, the Pukwudgie. They're generally depicted as small creatures, more humanoid than animal, is what it sounds like. And if anybody has a Pukwudgie story, I'd love to hear that, because they're kind of one of my favorites as well.
Yeah.
The other, so we talked about the deer man. There's other creatures out there that kind of fit the description of a horned beast or a horned cryptid. One of them is a satyr or a pan. And those are, from Greek mythology. We've all seen it. It's the guy with, like, the horns, the torso of a man, and then the legs and the feet of a goat. Not necessarily a deer, and I think that typically they have more goat-shaped horns than they do have, like, antlers. But that's still another type of, creature. Another thing that I wanted to bring up is something called the Horn God, or Cernunnos. And this is an ancient god with the head of a deer. So he's depicted in many different forms. It can be the body, the torso of a man, the legs of a deer, and then the antlers of a deer. But it can come in many different forms. So it can also come in like an upright standing deer with long horns, and the only thing humanoid about it is that it's bipedal, is that it walks on his back legs. And one thing about Cernunnos that I just think is so interesting, I've actually been looking into this god or this being for a while because I find it so interesting. There have been cave drawings of a horned god since people could start drawing in caves. This is a deity or a creature that's been worshipped for a very long time, and something that has just been kind of phased out. Cernunnos even isn't like... Cernunnos is just a title that was given to it, just like everything. So we don't know if this is what the god's real name is or anything like that. It's been known as the horned god for a long time. He's a cool creature, in my opinion, and they identify him as a Gaelish or a Celtic god. He's known as being like a mediator between man and nature. And then he is the god of beasts and wild places. He has the ability to bring enemies to peaceful communion with each other. And then there's some other things about him, like he could possibly be seen as the god of fertility, god of life, of creation. He exists in tandem with the divine feminine, and it sounds like it's kind of a mutual relationship. So I really like this creature or this deity because it sounds like he's more one with nature, and that's what I like about him.
Yeah.
But still, if this is like a godlike presence, I don't know why you wouldn't feel anything but maybe fear from him.
Yeah.
I don't know. So that's one thing. The only other thing that I could really think of, I didn't dive into this a whole lot because I think that the people who experience this feel like maybe it was more of a Wendigo, which does, it does kind of match the pop culture resemblance of that. Another thing that I wanted to get into is like what you and I have talked about, this thing of how, can it change because of how we interpret it now? Yeah. And to me, that kind of sounds like something called a tulpa. Have you heard of that before? A tulpa is a concept in mysticism and in paranormal realm of a being or object created through spiritual or mental powers. So there's an interesting story about tulpas where this woman goes to Tibet. She's like on the journey to go to Tibet. I think she goes to Lhasa. I always say Lhasa. I don't really know if that's it. She goes somewhere to Tibet to go see the Tibetan monks and to go to, I think, the Dalai Lama or somebody. I'm awful at this. All I remember is the story. I don't know where they're going. But she's traveling up this mountain, and she has tried her hardest to create a tulpa, and she creates this, like, fat fire type of person. And it's all in her mind, but she has been focusing on this being for years, and then it appears. And at first, it kind of does her bidding. It does her will. It's this creature that she has, she has said it has this type of personality. It's this type of thing. And that's what it follows. But then eventually, it becomes sentient. And it just begins to do whatever it wants to on its own. And I feel like with like a collection or a collective of people thinking, okay, Wendigo has horns, that's what we're going to see now. And it's almost like a tulpa, that it's in our mind. It's something that we've created for so long that now it's there. What do you think?
That's what happened. It kind of makes me sad because it just makes me think about how, so not to take away from folklore or what people have experienced and what they've seen, but what it makes me think of is social constructs and how we create the dynamic or we create the rhetoric around something and we change it to what makes sense.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
We change it to what makes it scary or what makes it more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It just reminds me of bigger picture here and like everything going on socially and how like we've created everything and we've created monsters and we've created bad guys that aren't really bad guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
Does that make sense? When I'm speaking very generally and I'm not getting very specific, but just the political environment and everything and what, I don't know. It just makes me sad. It's all a social construct and we change everything to control people's fears and thoughts and anxieties. And that's kind of like this.
You think that that's,
I don't know.
that you think that that is why the Wendigo now has antlers? Yeah.
I do. I think that it was changed because somebody thought it looked cooler because it does. Right. Like if I ever get a tattoo of a Wendigo, which I want one, I'm going to get it with antlers.
Right.
And I'm going to get it with hoofs for feet.
Right.
Which that's not what a Wendigo looks like. But that's what we've changed the Wendigo to look like because it's fucking scarier. And you can't explain it. You can't explain a deer head on a body. You can explain a really tall person who's gray in color and looks like they haven't eaten because they're starving.
Right.
You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess what you're saying, yeah, I know, I completely get it because like if we describe a Wendigo as
the concept wasn't enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason that wasn't scary enough, or that's something that we can process in a way that we can't process a guy with a deer head, skull attached to his body and giant ears. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah.
And we just have to keep going bigger and bigger and bigger. Listen, I'm going to get even worse. Like, let's talk about athletes.
Okay.
And how they have to take steroids to be better and better and better and better and to continue to be the best performer and to continue to wow. Mm-hmm. Like, the way that baseball players hit shit out of field, like, that's fucking nuts. Babe Ruth couldn't do that. Like, Babe Ruth did it, like, once. I don't even know. It's not normal. But it's because they're all fucking taking steroids and overperforming, and it's crazy. And we just have to keep wowing and like going up a level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy. We can't accept anything for how it is. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna get a Wendigo tattoo with antlers, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you think that it's because I don't know? It's easier to accept a creature that is less human-like to be able to do such awful things.
It could be. I mean, that could be where it comes from. We had to take away the human part of it.
Yeah.
Because humans doing that type of thing is so taboo and unspeakable.
Right.
That we had to take away the human side. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
But humans do awful, awful, awful things every day.
Oh, yeah, totally.
You know, we just don't want to talk about it. My cat's making her way over here, by the way.
Oh, Kiki's
this is when you can tell that alcohol has kicked in for me because I think I get real negative. I get real sad.
That's funny. Everything is a lie. Yeah. Everything's made up. Don't believe anything.
It's all awful. Humans are awful.
Yeah.
The human race. I don't really. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's cool, though. You're right. I mean, things transform and change. Mm-hmm. So these myths and this folklore has transcended, like, centuries, right?
Yeah.
But then we've changed it a little bit over time. And so we don't even know what the original... Like, think about the woman in white. Mm-hmm. And how we always describe her as wearing a long, flowing dress. But as time changes, is it going to change to a short dress?
Oh, depending on, like, also the fashion and shit like that. I don't know.
Yes, it's going to change over time. It
seems like there's a lot of Victorian ghosts out there, and that's where the ghosts, like, stopped.
They've changed. They stayed.
They're like, only if you died in the Victorian era are you going to become a ghost, because that was the worst time to live? I don't know.
People were real stinky.
People were really stinky, and lots of diseases and weird shit went on that time.
That's true.
Or
That's
at least...
Gross. Was she licking you?
She's not.
Oh, because my cat's licking me right now. I thought it would be cute.
No, she's biting me. This is what it's like to have a Siamese cat. They just want to bite you. Like, you pet them and you give them attention and they just bite you. And... yeah.
Oh. Are they love bites?
Yeah, they're love bites. And I think Lindsay and I had a conversation. Like, we didn't talk about what we were going to talk about, obviously, because I thought there was going to be a part 2.
Clearly.
No, we just talked.
There is no organization.
We just talked about our cats. And, like, What was I saying about Kiki? I love her because she hates me. Like, she doesn't hate me. She does like me a lot, but she wants to bite me and fuck me up all the time. And she reminds me a lot of my cat Wicket that passed away a couple years ago. And it's just like, I just need this abusive relationship. I don't know. Like, she's biting me right now. Like, she just can't wait to sink her teeth into my arm, and I just love her so much.
She loves it. She loves
She's
it.
Okay. She's doing all right now. But anyways, yeah. So do you have anything else to say about Wendigos or society?
I am ordering a miniature figurine.
Oh.
A 3D print of a Wendigo.
Get out of here.
And it has horns and it has hooves.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a skeleton of a Wendigo.
Lindsay, I never thought you'd have a figurine in your house before. That's so weird.
Yeah, I
Look at
know.
you
I would completely
dyeing your hair, getting figurines. Next thing you know, you're gonna get like, you're gonna be painting those little anime figures or Dungeons and Dragons.
I mean, I've been playing a video
God,
game.
what? Who are you?
It's a little teacup that like has to like shoot ice cubes to kill people.
Okay, that sounds like that's you. I'm not too surprised, actually.
It's really hard. It's on the Switch. It's actually really hard.
It sounds really cute. Yeah.
Yeah, it's real
Yeah.
cute. Yeah, no, I'm a new woman.
Dang. Welcome. Welcome, redhead Lindsay.
Yeah.
Oh,
It'll be gone
prismatic. Dang. Girl.
I'm like the girl from The Craft. Remember when she goes...
Oh, yeah, and her hair turns blonde or whatever. Yeah.
That's what I was trying to do. Anyways, Lily's ready to join the show now, so
Lily.
here she comes.
She's... I just... What is she doing? Okay. Well, I just had one more thing to talk about before we go.
Okay.
And I just wanted to tell everybody to find a podcast called The Hex Files. Yeah, so...
That's a cute name.
I know, right? Like, why didn't we think about that? But anyways...
That's a really good idea. God
Yeah,
damn.
our friends from Cursed, it's Bones and Tamara are running a new show. It's called Hex Files. They had a couple of the shows kind of intertwined with their other show called Cursed, but now it's something separate, and it sounds like it's going to be more of the paranormal kind of spooky shit. And if you haven't listened to Cursed, give them a try, and you're going to love them. And then also listen to the Hex Files, and you're going to love them too. Anywho.
Yeah, also, we were listed on a list.
Oh, yeah.
A podcast to listen to.
Yeah, we were.
That's an announcement. We're on a list. That's pretty
We
cool.
are on a list. It's cool. And I posted that on our Instagram page, and I posted the list on our Facebook page, and it's like 13 spooky podcasts to listen to. I wish I'd have written down all that information, but thank you so much for putting us on that. Like, it just made my day. And like, I've been telling everybody and kind of bragging, like, I didn't post this. This was on somebody else's website that, somebody else listened to us and they said we're worthy of this list, and it makes us very happy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool,
It
dude.
is
That's
cool.
very kind, and thank you.
Thank you so much. And listen to the other shows that are on that list, because I listen to a lot of them and they're really good.
They're
Yeah.
good. Do you hear her licking?
No. It probably will come up later, don't worry. Okay, well, I think both of our cats are ready for us to end the show. Because Kiki's going to start, she's like, Lily's real cute and just wants to cuddle. Kiki wants to walk all over everything.
Yeah, she wants to cuddle.
Yeah.
She likes to be pat. She does. You know how some cats like it? Like, she likes to be pat. It doesn't hurt her. She likes
That's
it.
good.
Yeah. In case anybody was worried. If they heard me patting her, it's kind of her thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of her thing. She's purring.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess the show is over. Until next time. Oh, no, wait. Actually, if you want to send us a story. I was kind of hoping she would meow.
I know.
I was kind of I was kind of hoping she would meow into the microphone, but she didn't. Anyways, if you want to send us a story that you want us to, God damn, then just send it to I have a strange story podcast at gmail.com, and we'll be happy to read it.
Yeah. And subscribe, rate, and review us. If you rate and review us, please give us a nice review and take a snapshot of your review, send it to our email address with your mailing address, and we will mail you some stickers. And we're not doing mailing right now. And follow us on Instagram, Facebook. Not very active in all of those, but we post something every once in a while. Sometimes we do. And yeah, until next time.
Until next time.
Goodbye.
Bye. What are you stopping? I saw. What'd you stop? All right. I did too.